For 200 years, they said it was just a myth, a made-up story, a river that never existed. But then, a satellite saw something that changed everything. And what scientists found underground will give you chills. Imagine writing about a massive river in your holy books, singing songs about it, worshipping it, and then it completely disappears. No trace, nothing. For thousands of years, people wondered, was the Saraswati River real or just a beautiful story? Well, in 2023, science finally answered that question, and the answer is absolutely shocking. Let's go back 5,000 years. Ancient India. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest texts in the world, talks about a river called Saraswati. And this wasn't just any river. They called it Ambitame, Naditame, Devitame, the best mother, the best river, the best goddess. The Vedas said it flowed between two other rivers, the Yamuna and the Sutlej. It was huge. It was powerful. Entire civilizations lived on its banks. But here's the weird part. Somewhere around 4,000 years ago, this mighty river just dried up, disappeared, gone. And for the next 4,000 years, nobody could find it. Fast forward to the 1800s. British scholars are studying Indian history. They read about the Saraswati River and they laugh. This is mythology, they said, just a story. There's no river here. It never existed. For 200 years, the Saraswati became known as the mythical river. History books wrote it off. Even many Indians started to doubt. Was it really just a legend? A poetic imagination? A fairy tale? But something didn't add up. Why would ancient people write so much about a river that never existed? The Rig Veda mentions Saraswati more than 50 times. That's more than any other river. What were they really talking about? Then, in the early 2000s, something incredible happened. ISRO, that's the Indian Space Research Organization, pointed their satellites at North India. They weren't even looking for the river. They were just mapping the land. And that's when they saw it. A massive dried-up riverbed, hidden under sand and soil, running between, wait for it, the Yamuna and Sutlej rivers, exactly where the Vedas said it would be. Scientists couldn't believe it. They thought it was a coincidence. So they started digging. Literally. IIT Kharagpur, Jawaharlal Nehru University, the Archaeological Survey of India, everyone jumped in. They used ground-penetrating radar. They took soil samples. They studied groundwater patterns, and what they found was mind-blowing. The Saraswati wasn't small. It was massive. Over 1,500 kilometers long. In ancient times, it was probably bigger than the Ganga. They found dried-up tributaries, ancient wells, settlements along the riverbank, pottery, tools, evidence of entire cities. But here's the craziest part. They did carbon dating. The river existed from around 6,000 BCE to 2,000 BCE. It was at its peak between 3,000 to 1,900 BCE. You know what else was written around that time? the Rig Veda. The timeline matched perfectly. Let me show you how accurate the Vedas were. This will blow your mind. The Vedas said, the river flows from the mountains to the sea. Scientists found it started in the Himalayas and flowed toward the Arabian Sea. In Vedas, it flows between Yamuna and Sutlej. Satellite images show the dried riverbed exactly there. In Vedas, it's the greatest of all rivers. Geological studies confirm it was one of India's largest ancient rivers. The Vedas said, it dried up and became lost. Carbon dating shows it dried up around 2000 BCE due to tectonic plate shifts. Every single detail was accurate. But wait, there's more. Remember the Indus Valley civilization? Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, one of the world's oldest civilizations. Scientists always wondered why it suddenly collapsed around 1900 BCE. People just left. Cities were abandoned. Now we know why. The Saraswati River dried up. The river that fed these civilizations, gone. No water means no crops, no drinking water, no civilization. The Vedas weren't just describing a river, they were documenting one of the biggest environmental disasters in human history. And they got it all right. So why does this matter? Why should you care about a river that dried up 4,000 years ago? Because this changes everything. For centuries, people said ancient Indian texts were just myths, just stories, not real history. But the Saraswati River proves that our ancestors weren't making things up. They were recording real events, real geography, real history. They didn't have satellites, they didn't have ground-penetrating radar, but somehow they described this river so accurately that 5,000 years later, scientists could find it using their descriptions. Think about that. How did they know? How were they so precise? It shows that ancient Indians were incredible observers. They had knowledge, they had science, they had technology we're only beginning to understand. And it makes you wonder, what else did they get right? What other myths are actually real history, waiting to be discovered? The Saraswati River flowed for thousands of years. It gave life to one of the world's greatest civilizations. And then it vanished into legend. But it was never a myth. It was always real. Sometimes the old stories are true. Sometimes ancient wisdom knows more than we give it credit for. And sometimes all it takes is looking at the world from a different angle, maybe from space, to see what was always there. The Saraswati River existed. Science proved it. The Vedas knew it all along. What other secrets are hiding in our ancient texts, waiting to be discovered?